Commodus, the emperor who traded his throne for the arenas, became one of the most controversial figures in Roman history. But how did an emperor, born into luxury and power, end up facing gladiators trained to kill? The truth is, he didn't enter the arenas just out of vanity. Commodus underwent rigorous training, transforming himself into a deadly warrior. You might think that, as an emperor, he would have received privileges or shortcuts in his training. However, the techniques and discipline he was subjected to were on par with those of the most experienced gladiators. His trainers, masters of combat, shaped the emperor into a feared fighter in the arenas. What were these techniques? How did Commodus really prepare for the fights? Today, we're going to explore Commodus's secret training and uncover how he became a living legend in the Roman arenas. What you'll discover next may change your perception of Rome's last emperor gladiator. Let's dive in. Commodus, the son of the revered philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius, displayed a personality that starkly contrasted with his father's. While Marcus Aurelius was known for his wisdom and stoic philosophy, Commodus was drawn to the spectacle of the Roman arenas. His fascination with the combat and violence of the gladiators went beyond mere admiration. It was almost an obsession. Historical accounts suggest that Commodus not only watched the fights with great enthusiasm, but also wanted to be a part of them. This obsession didn't stem from simple amusement. For Commodus, the arenas were a stage where he could showcase his strength and prove his worth in a practical manner. Unlike the political and philosophical virtues he inherited, the emperor wanted to be seen not just as a ruler, but as an unbeatable warrior. This craving to stand out physically, rather than intellectually, drove him to train rigorously to face professional gladiators, defying the traditional role of an emperor. What intrigued the Roman public was Commodus's willingness to face adversaries in battles that could theoretically result in his death. Although, as emperor, he could have chosen a safer and more honorable path. He preferred to descend into the arena and literally get his hands dirty in violent battles. This obsession with combat shaped his reputation, dividing public opinion. Some viewed him as fearless, while others considered him reckless and irresponsible. His decision to become a gladiator wasn't just a vanity project, but a need for personal validation. He wanted to be adored by the people not just as an emperor, but as a true warrior. It was a desire to transcend political power and be seen as a brute force in the arenas. This mindset would shape every step of his preparation, leading him to seek out the best trainers and the most rigorous training techniques, as a way to prove that his position in the fights wasn't guaranteed just by his title. Commodus's obsession with the arenas, however, raised a central question. How could he, a man born into luxury and royalty, compete on equal terms with gladiators who trained their whole lives to kill? To achieve this, it would take more than just determination. It required rigorous physical and mental training to match the most feared warriors of Rome. And that was exactly the path he chose to follow. To transform his body into a true war machine, Commodus subjected himself to a rigorous physical regimen far beyond what was expected of an emperor. Unlike the nobles of his time, who typically engaged in lighter physical activities such as hunting and horseback riding, Commodus sought training that mimicked the brutal daily life of the gladiators. He knew that to survive in the arenas, he needed endurance, strength, and agility, essential traits for each life-or-death combat. Commodus's physical training included long sessions of heavy weightlifting to build his physical strength. He extensively practiced with real weapons, from short swords like the gladius to nets and tridents, the tools of the retiarius gladiators. The goal was clear. Commodus needed to master the art of hand-to-hand combat in all its forms. To achieve this, he trained daily in strikes, defenses, and combat strategies, honing every aspect of his performance. Endurance was another key element in his training. Commodus couldn't rely solely on brute strength. He also needed stamina to handle prolonged fights. Thus, his cardiovascular training included long runs, jumps, and high-intensity exercises that simulated the relentless pace of the arenas. Each session was designed to push his body to its limits, forcing him to go beyond what would be expected of a man in his position. Additionally, Commodus's physical training was complemented by a special diet, rich in proteins and essential nutrients, something unusual for the Roman elite. His goal was to build and maintain a strong and agile body that could withstand both the wear and tear of the workouts and the psychological pressure of the arenas. He could not afford to fail or show weakness. As emperor, all eyes would be on him, and any sign of weakness would be seen as a disgrace. The result of this physical rigor was Commodus's transformation. Once seen as a political leader sheltered by the luxuries of the palace, he now displayed the physique and strength of a true gladiator. Commodus didn't want to be just another aristocrat thrown into the arenas. He wanted to be a legend, someone capable of dominating any opponent. And his body, forged by months of intense training, was ready for that. To achieve the necessary level of skill, Commodus didn't settle for ordinary instructors. He sought out the best combat masters, men who had spent their lives fighting in the arenas and surviving deadly battles. These trainers, many of whom were former gladiators, brought with them the knowledge of the most brutal and efficient tactics used in the field. Their goal was to prepare Commodus not just to win, but to humiliate his opponents, proving that the emperor could be the greatest gladiator in Rome. Among his trainers were fighters from various specialties of the arenas. Sword masters, experts in the use of the trident and net, and even gladiators skilled in combat with wild animals were called in to refine every aspect of Commodus's training. He learned to fight in different forms of combat, understanding the styles and weaknesses of each, ensuring that he was ready for any opponent he might face. These trainers showed no mercy in their methods. Although Commodus was emperor, in training sessions he was treated like any other gladiator preparing for battle. The rigor was absolute, and the discipline imposed on him reflected the survival needs of the arenas. The blows were real, the strategies lethal, and even the smallest mistakes could be costly in a real fight. In this way, Commodus was forced to adopt a combat mentality that went beyond the privilege of his position. A crucial part of this process was learning how to maintain focus under pressure. The gladiator masters didn't just train Commodus's body, but also his mind. They knew that in the arenas, psychological combat was as important as physical prowess. Commodus had to develop the ability to stay calm amidst chaos, read the enemy's movements, and use every split second to calculate the next strike. This calculating and cold mentality would become one of his greatest weapons in the arenas. Thanks to these masters, Commodus transformed from a young emperor fascinated by the arenas into a feared fighter. Every technique he learned, every wound he sustained during training, shaped his reputation. He was no longer just a spectator of the arenas, but a competitor prepared to face the most dangerous challenges Rome could offer. His trainers had turned him into a combat machine, ready to fight and win. One thing that set Commodus apart from other gladiators was his training in warfare tactics. Unlike fighters who specialized in a single combat style, Commodus had the strategic knowledge of a military commander at his disposal. He combined this expertise with the deadly techniques of the arena, making him an unpredictable and lethal opponent. His ability to observe the battlefield, identify weaknesses, and exploit them with surgical precision was unusual for a gladiator. In hand-to-hand combat, Commodus mastered the gladius, the short, sharp Roman sword. He trained tirelessly to deliver swift, deadly strikes aimed at vital areas of the body. But his skill extended beyond the sword. Commodus was also proficient with the trident and net, drawing inspiration from the retiarii, gladiators renowned for their agility and dexterity. He knew how to use these tools to destabilize his opponents, casting the net with precision and attacking with the trident at opportune moments. Beyond direct combat, Commodus excelled in the art of defense. Gladiators understood that brute force alone wasn't enough. Survival depended on knowing how to defend oneself, dodge, and counterattack at the right moment. Commodus learned to anticipate his opponent's moves, using shields and armor strategically to minimize the impact of blows. He combined this with an almost instinctive ability to move across the battlefield, always seeking the advantage. Another crucial technique he developed was playing mind games with his opponents. Commodus knew that often, victory could be achieved before the first blow was even struck. He learned to use taunts, gestures, and glances to intimidate his adversaries, making them hesitate. By controlling the enemy's psychology, Commodus gained a crucial edge. Every move, every word was calculated to destabilize and mentally disarm his opponent before physical combat began. These techniques, when combined, made Commodus an extremely versatile fighter. His adaptability was unmatched. He could face any fighting style and find a way to win. This technical mastery, coupled with his tactical reading ability, made Commodus a true force in the arena. Someone who not only fought but strategically dismantled his opponents.